Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order the Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners for the work session for August the 6th, 2012. As a courtesy reminder, for those of you here with us today, please put your cell phones or any mobile devices on silence or vibrate. And we welcome you all that are here today. The first item of business is to approve the work session agenda, along with the supplemental information. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. First items will be discussion items for which we will not take action at our regular meeting. And first up, we have Anna Yon with Piedmont Behavioral to present your fourth quarter dashboard report. Welcome, and we're glad you're with us.
Thank you. Good afternoon. All right, this is our fourth quarter fiscal year to date. The county funds to show the specific service array as far as where the county dollars go. This is 91.2% reporting, says of May 31st, as there's a 90-day lag, so that you'll see some of the dollars have not been reported as of yet. Below is the number of consumers served by Medicaid and state. As you see, June is a little bit lower, and that just has to do with the claim lag. For the Registry of Unmet Needs for Innovations, that has stayed steady. We did receive a few slots beginning in April, so you'll see that number go slightly down come in the next quarter. For the Residential Registry of Unmet Needs, this has stayed steady for those, whether they're seeking placement or they may be waiting on a specific placement that's not available at this time, and they'll wait until they're ready. Your Adult Day Vocational Program for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, this has also stayed steady. This is a state-funded program, so it is based on state funds available. This pie chart is your number of consumers served and expenses by service category. You see the number of consumers for outpatient is much higher. It's a short-term service, whereas, for example, the Innovations is, as well as the ICF, which is your intermediate care facility for intellectual and developmental disabilities, is your lowest served. But below, for the expenses on the next chart, you'll see the Innovations and ICF are some of your higher paid services because they're a long-term service, whereas the outpatient is a lower cost. On the next page shows a comparison between the fiscal year 2010-2011 to the fiscal year 2011-2012. The numbers have increased in each area. You will see some as far as the emergency services that are reported, your outpatient emergency department, where that was just recently in this past year where we started providing those funds. As well as for the state funds, you will see that we are looking at increasing community dollars for those state funds while trying to decrease that for inpatient services. So investing more of those dollars in the community. With your expenses, in regards to Cabarrus County, the approximate for 2011-2012 is around $19 million invested into Cabarrus County for Medicaid as well as state funds. Your C waiver recipients, as I said, that number has stayed pretty steady. However, in looking at, of course, in June, those numbers are a little low, and that is also with claims lag. And the last page shows your top 10 providers that serve individuals in Cabarrus County, as well as the paid claims for those providers. Those numbers fluctuate, and it's really based on the services they provide. Daymark is one of your largest outpatient providers, which is your lower cost service, whereas RHA, Independent Opportunities, provide your intellectual and developmental disability services, which are a higher paid service. And then below are your top 3 providers that are located specifically in Cabarrus County, and then it shows a distinct number of consumers served for the last quarter. Any questions?
Any questions? Usually Bob's the one that knows the most, since he's on your board.
Wasn't.
Was,
As
yes.
of June 30th. One thing I wanted to point out, and it's not particularly anything to do with the report, but I know that a few months ago we had Ben Rose was in here to talk about DSS, and he talked about, I think it was like 17 different programs or that funding streams they had that they had to file for reimbursement for each one of those and keep time tracked on each one of those. And that's something that I think has been so successful about PBH is through the waivers that we were able to get that several years ago, is all this comes in one big pot of money. You don't have to account for it separately. You don't have to reimburse separately. It has created, that's what created the momentum for what has happened in mental health across the state because of what happened at PBH. And for more dollars are going to consumers that need it, less dollars are being used for administrative overhead, and giving a tremendous amount of savings to the organization.
You can modify where the service need is the most and provide those dollars there instead of having to have its specific funding streams.
Yeah, and I think creates a model that can be applied just about any federal or state program that we administer in the county. If we had the freedom to be able to do that, that would go a long way towards, I think, addressing some of the issues that people get upset about. So.
Thank you very much, Anna. We always appreciate you coming.
Certainly.
I know that as part of your requirements is that you present to us on a quarterly basis, and that's for people at home that are watching us on TV, to let them understand why you do come and present your report to us. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Hey, next up we have updates from Cabarrus County Schools and Kannapolis City Schools concerning the QSCB, or Qualified School Construction Bonds projects. And we have a number of people here today. It looks a lot nicer today. Nothing against you two gentlemen, of course. Hey, we have Lynn Whitkey and Will Crabtree and Kelly from Cabarrus County Schools. So I don't know who wants to go first. Y'all decide.
Which documents first?
Okay, right ahead.
Thank you. We'll go first.
Your documents first.
We'll do the milestone report first for Cabarrus County, and I would like to just mention we've had a busy summer, to say the least. We have 5 schools in which we are replacing the air conditioning system and all the controls. So it's been a madcap adventure in terms of just we couldn't start anything until school closed, and of course we want to be ready for school when it opens. So we were able to start a couple of schools simply because equipment became available to us a little earlier than planned. But all the projects are nearing completion now and should be complete on or about the day school begins. And the only project, really, of the initial group that you're looking at on this page, the only project that remains to be bid is the gym addition at Northwest Cabarrus High School. And that project is scheduled to bid we should receive bids, I should say, in October. So we will know pretty much where that project is budget-wise, and that will then, in effect, basically determine what dollars are available to get to the second page of this report, which are the remaining or outstanding projects that have been postponed. And at that time, we will have a plan in place that basically outlines the priority list, or priority order in which we will address this list. Any questions?
So at the next month, you'll have that list, do you think? Is that your target to look for September to?
It is our target. What I'll be doing is that I will be prioritizing those, presenting those to Dr. Shepard and then to our board. So I would imagine that would happen next month, and then we can bring it to the following, your commissioners' meeting in October.
Okay, that's what I would do. double-check your timelines.
Yes, ma'am.
We would look forward in October.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions about the milestone report? Okay.
And this is the financial component of the projects. And so on the right-hand side is just a quick reference for the project completion date or status. And so we've, you'll reference in the requested budget amendment where we're asking you later in 4.1 to do a budget amendment for $42,342. We're asking you to take funds from Coltrane Webb and move it into a Central Cabarrus project. So you'll see that in red, removing it from Coltrane Webb and putting the funds into Central Cabarrus. And Mr. Whitkey can explain the need for those funds if you need more information than we provided you in that letter. But essentially, we're trying just to remove funds from projects that are 100% complete. And we've put the postponed projects at the bottom of the document per your request. And if you have any questions about the funding status, I'm happy to take those at this time.
Any questions at this time?
We're taking money out of, well, let me, what I'm seeing right here is Cabarrus High School. We took out $139,000 from that, correct?
We did at one time.
And where'd we put that?
I don't recall at the time.
Okay.
I could track that back.
And
for
now
you.
we're going to put $42,000 back into the place that we took $139,000 out of?
Correct.
Why? I mean, why did we take $139,000 out of it if we needed 42?
I can track that change back for you, but I don't recall at the time.
Did that go to the gymnasium?
To the gymnasium?
No, I believe it went to another project at Central Cabarrus High School. At the time, we bid, I believe we bid both the windows and the window replacement project and the office remodeling. The windows came in low, the office remodeling came in high, and that $139,000, I believe, was what was moved from one project to the other to cover the overcost in the office renovations. It was a security, I should say office security improvements that we did at that school.
Any other questions on Cabarrus County Schools? Okay. Kannapolis City Schools?
Good afternoon. Just give you an update on our projects. We have finished a few projects, two notably at A.O. Brown High School, where our chiller replacement is finished and the lighting replacement at the school is finished. We are close to the end on the control projects, the first one being at Jackson Park Elementary, the other one being at Woodrow Wilson Elementary. I expect those to finish up within the next week. At KIS, Kannapolis Intermediate School, the roof is well underway. The roof is going to take a couple more months into school. We have worked out the plan for that, so it'll be minimal disruption for the students. The HVAC is probably going to take us right up to the start of school. We unfortunately did run into a few issues this week with the HVAC above the ceiling. It was a 1980s constructed building, and above the ceiling we have a lot of penetrations through the firewalls that are going to be fixed. So we did have contingency built into that particular project, so we're going to have to access that contingency to fix those issues to meet code. So that's slowed us down a little bit, but not bad.
That's at Kannapolis Intermediate?
Kannapolis Intermediate School.
Any questions about the Kannapolis City Schools projects? Okay. Thank you all. We appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, next up, as you all are aware, we have the upset bid process for the Old Bethel School. What you might want to turn to is page 118. The information on page 113 got us through 10 days ago. And so let's just go to 118. Today, Woodson University came in and upset the previous bid. So the current bid is at $14,750 with Woodson University. In order for that bid to be upset, of course, we still have till 5 o'clock today, so we could have another, no?
That was today, so.
Oh, I'm sorry, so that took care of it. I'm sorry, I thought it went till 5 today, so.
His bid upset.
So it starts all over again, okay. Sorry about that one. 10 days ago, we had a bunch going on at the same time, that's why I was thinking. Okay, Woodson University upset it, they have it at $14,750. The next new minimum bid would be $15,537.50 in the event that we get another bid, and that clock starts, so there's another 10 days on that process. So if there is anyone else, we did have another bidder that came in 10 days ago that we were unaware of, so there were at least 3 different people that were looking at the facility. Does anybody have any questions on the current standing on Old Bethel? Okay. Next up, we got a request from the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners for legislative goals for fiscal year 13-14. As you will note in your agenda on page 19, they would like to receive them on or before September the 17th so that they can be referred to the correct steering committee for review and consideration. In your agenda packet, staff has included the 2012 goals, the 2011 goals, and also memorandum requesting that we provide goals in the actual form that we would use in the handbook. So what I would like to ask commissioners, if you will look over all of these documents, if you have suggestions for any of our goals that you think that we should put forward, whether they are the same ones from last year or need to be changed, we can put that on the agenda for next month for us to actually talk about it and come up with any goals that we want to send to NCACC. Does anybody have any questions or comments at this time?
One thing I would say, they are also looking, heard that this morning, that the association is looking for commissioners that are willing to serve on steering committees as well. So there'll be a chance to sign up for those. I got a chance to do it 4 years ago to be on the Legislative Goals Committee. What happens, the steering committees all put their goals together and they review them and vote on whether or not to push them forward to the Legislative Goals Committee, who then takes them and massages those as well. So they're, if anybody wants to serve, by all means, looking for folks to be willing to do that.
Okay, so if you're willing to serve, please let the county manager know. And if you have any recommendations, if you can maybe bring those in 2 weeks, or at least get them, if we could get them in 2 weeks at the next meeting, somewhere around there, then Kay would be able to get them organized so that we would have it at the next work session. Whether it is, we like the ones from 2012, or, we have a list of the goals that they put forward and what was met and what wasn't met. If there's anything that you feel strongly about that we want to make sure that they know, would be appreciated.
One thing to do, I'm sure, is they may adopt goals, and it may not be all, the ones we send in may not think they just ignore them, but they also adopt, the committee adopts general broad principles so that the legislative advocacy staff, if they see something coming through, if it violates one of those principles, then they know what direction to take on those. So it may not they'll get specific on 3 or 4, but then the rest of them will be kind of what direction that we as counties want them to go in when they go to the legislature.
Point well made. Okay. And now we'll go to section 4, discussion items for action at our next meeting on August the 20th. And first up, we have Lynn Whitkey from Cabarrus County Schools to talk about, they just referenced reallocation request, for Central Cabarrus High School. That's on page 48 of your agenda.
Hello again.
We'll talk about that now.
This project, as we talked a little bit a few minutes ago, we encountered asbestos in the windows, and this was not something that was readily noticeable. The material's actually, in many cases, hidden from view, and really it was only through destruction of some of the window frames that we actually found it. So having encountered it, we got prices for what we're going to have to do is abate it as we go. And so that's the request. It basically addresses the cost to do that and gives us a little bit of contingency in case we find anything we didn't anticipate in the process. But the windows are about 60% done, and these are, I call them clear story. They're windows that are high up in the main lobby, excuse me, in the main corridors of the school, and they're at the very top of the ceiling. And that's one group. And then there's interior windows. They divide spaces typically. They divide, let's say, parts of corridors, and that material, or those frames contain the material. And it was also in some of the what we call storefront. It's the material. It looks like any other window, but it's called storefront because it basically goes from floor to ceiling, wall to wall. And there are certain areas, like around some of the courtyards in the building and at some of the entranceways, that also contain this material in the same way. So basically this money will allow us to abate the material as the window replacement contractor is doing their work. Yeah. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions concerning this request?
If we do this, we're not going to do the kitchen hood modifications at Culture and Webb?
Well, first of all, that wasn't enough money to do that. The hoods cost about $50,000 plus design fees. So we felt we certainly didn't need any additional money at the moment at Culture and Webb. The money that we have there was allocated for the remodeling for the STEM project, which is completed.
So we're not going to do the Culture and Webb kitchen hood modification project?
Not at this time. It may be something we do once we prioritize the projects and we start spending down those available dollars at the end. It may well be one of the projects we ultimately do.
Well, what I'm concerned about is we're moving monies around without any plan or organization. Is we're taking money out of Culture and Webb, and now you're saying we may have to put money back into Culture and Webb. Why are we doing? Why don't we have a prioritization of the projects so we know exactly where the money needs to go that we have, instead of moving it from here to there and then back to the same place? It seems like staff has taken up a lot of time trying to move things around. Why don't we have a plan of organization about what we are definitely going to be able to do and what we can't do, and then go from there?
I guess the only answer to that is that the prioritization will occur, as we said, in a little bit later, a month or two. This is certainly not an anticipated issue, otherwise we would have addressed it as part of our initial budgeting for the project. As a result, we're looking at as simple a move of funds as we can at this time. We do have additional monies available to us to make some of those other projects happen that are on the postponed list at the moment. And if that's the case, we will distribute those funds and hopefully do it in a fairly prioritized and logical way.
Wouldn't it be better to do the prioritization now, so we have those answers and we know where we're going in the future, as opposed to having no roadmap and we're just kind of going from hither to yon?
In retrospect, that might be the case, Mr. Commissioner, but the problem is that if we had our druthers, we would have had contingencies built into these projects. We would have done things a lot differently. Unfortunately, QSCB does not allow you to do that. They have a very structured way of budgeting, and we conform to that.
Well, I'm saying right now we have a chance to have a roadmap for the future. You're talking about prioritizing in 2 months. Why can't we prioritize now?
I guess 2 different things in my mind. One is this project needs to get done as quickly as possible, ideally before winter sets in. We're at about 60% complete.
And I would agree with that.
And we have to move the money from somewhere.
Well, and we already moved $139,000 out of it. If we had not have moved $139,000 out of it, we would have the $42,343 that we need now, correct?
That was one way of looking at it, yes, but
Well,
at
how
the
else would
time-
you look at it?
Well, but the problem was that we had other projects at the same school that needed to be accomplished. At the time, that seemed to be a logical decision, not knowing that we were going to incur a cost for the asbestos abatement.
Okay.
I'm not trying to be argumentative, but, the prioritization will occur, and I'm not trying to dodge that at all. We need to run it through our board and have their agreement before we bring it to your.
And I'm not saying you don't have the prioritization with your board first. What I'm saying is, why haven't we already had that prioritization so that when you come today, we have a clear roadmap about where we're going?
I think the honest reason for that is simply that we have major projects that we were bidding, and we didn't know what sort of contingency we were going to need to accomplish those projects. If I take you back a year or so ago, if you watch the minutes, listen to the minutes rather, of the video, you'll see that I was saying, basically, we had to keep a certain amount of projects back in order to address any unforeseen costs that we honestly believed were going to occur in the bidding process. I think we've been very fortunate to hold these projects as close to the budget as we have. And it's probably still a sign of the times. But that said, hindsight is great, but at that time we didn't know, and that was the reason they were postponed in the first place. So we're more than happy to get on with prioritization, but that's not an issue that affects this project right now. This project needs to continue. We have a contractor who has all the materials on site, needs to get them installed. We need the money to come from some location. Colchin Webb's STEM project is complete, and that's why we're recommending taking the money out of it. If we decide as groups to fund the hood replacement, there are funds available.
Commissioner Bruce?
Wasn't, that window replacement was a bid contract, right?
Yes, sir.
Did the contractor not know that the caulking had asbestos in it when he bid the job?
No, sir. And part of the issue is that when it's called an AHERA, and I wish I remembered what the specific acronym means, but it was a movement back in the 80s in all schools that we had to do studies to identify the location and type of asbestos-containing materials in schools. But what they didn't require at that time was any sort of destructive investigation. It was what you could basically see by visual inspection. And that's the problem with this. It's if I were to show you a section through the window, it's actually hidden behind a piece of framework that goes into another fixed frame. And it's that caulking or the glazing product that's hidden, and you really can't see it until you tear into the window.
Is this the actual cost to get rid of the asbestos?
No, it's about $31,000. We're just suggesting we move all the money to this project because we don't know if we're going to take, if it's going to require more air monitoring or additional enclosure or what specifically. We have bids, and those came in at $31,000 to do.
Is that the contractor that's replacing the windows?
No, sir, he doesn't do that.
That's a different contractor?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, Mr. Wiki, what about the $187,000 that's not encumbered in regards to the electrical vault code upgrades at Central Cabarrus? Why wouldn't you use that money since it's unencumbered?
That project, again, is just beginning. The issue there is that those are inspections, and just to make a brief statement, what we'll be inspecting are the electrical distribution panels in all of the schools. And I believe when I say all, it's really about 28 of the schools. And when they inspect them, they identify them. Our staff can make minor corrections, but in the case where a complete panel is not worthy of being replaced, that it needs, I mean, not worthy of being repaired or fixed and needs replacement, those funds are not actually accounted for in the project. And so we need to keep a contingency in that project in order to replace those panels which are bad.
So in regards to Central Cabarrus, we have $225,000 worth of electrical vault codes that need to be
Oh,
upgraded.
I'm sorry, excuse me, you're talking about
I'm looking right here.
two different projects. I'm not looking at the same document you are, sir.
Okay. $225,000, we have 187 that's unencumbered on that project for Central Cabarrus. I'm on page, I don't know what page I'm on the page, there you go. $780 is not encumbered. Why wouldn't we just use that money, since it's not encumbered, instead of having to switch it from one project to another?
Yeah, that project is currently just under, we've in the process of writing contracts for it, so the project is not started. So that $187,780 is actually the amount of money we will most likely be spending on the project. When I was talking before, I was talking about the, there's another electrical upgrades, electrical panel testing and connections. That's the one I thought you were talking about. This one that you are referring to, those funds are going to be spent as part
All
of
of
the
them?
construction. I believe that is the budgeted amount, yes.
But you don't know how much is going to be spent. You don't know if there's any money going to be left over there.
Not without the documents in front of me, no.
Okay.
I believe that was the bid amount, but I'm not positive. But it is what is unencumbered because the contract is not executed.
Do you have the bids on that project?
I mean, not with me, but
I know that,
of
but you
course.
have bid that project
Oh,
out.
yes, ma'am.
I just know it says 15% complete on that particular
Yeah,
one.
right. It
so
means we've-
I didn't know if you were still in document phase or if you've actually bid that one.
No, we have bid it, yes.
Who does the inspection on these electrical panels?
We have a consultant that will,
What?
a consultant that will be doing that.
I mean, is he with?
Oh, I'm sorry, you mean,
I mean, who makes the decision that this panel board is too old to refurbish or it needs to be replaced? Is that a insurance commission, somebody with the insurance commission, or is that somebody with the engineering degree, electrical engineering degree, or
Yes.
with some electrical engineering company?
it'll be the contractor advising our engineer, and then our engineer advising us in terms of what the final decision should be.
I mean, do they have an age that they put on the panel board?
I think there is an age in terms of, if you can get parts and for repairs, but I think it's more the condition of it that governs overall. I'm not the expert on electrical, but.
Well, not just, I've seen stuff out there last for 50 years, and I
Mhm.
just, and still be in good shape.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the next item, 4.2, solid waste ordinance acknowledging new conditions of existing solid waste collection and disposal franchise agreement with Republic Services and renewing the franchise agreement through December 31st, 2017. As you will remember, this has to be on two different meetings. Kevin Grant and Kyle Billifer are here. Commissioners, I don't know if you have additional questions from last month that you need to ask. If you do, they're both here and they can address them.
I don't have additional questions, but I do. I went back, and I never got a phone call from Mrs. Marston. She said she's called me twice, or excuse me, she put up during the meeting 3 fingers. She called me. I never got a phone call from her, so I believe she's talking to Commissioner Meismer. And I only got that one email from her. So if anybody else has been contacted her, or she's contacted anybody else or emailed somebody else, if y'all could forward me on the emails, because she's not communicating with me.
I had a home message, and then I talked to her at that meeting.
Yeah.
The work session meeting. Was
Well,
when I
she
talked to her.
specifically said she's contacted each one of us, and she said me 3 times, and I have not gotten those emails, or I've not gotten those phone messages, and I've gotten only just one email. So if anybody knows something different, I'd love to know more information that she wants to give us.
Okay. Anybody else, any questions for staff?
I'm assuming that this is still exactly what we voted on previously, same, nothing's changed.
Yeah, that's correct. Nothing's changed, numbers are the same.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Next, we have a NCDOT request to purchase right-of-way. Kelly Sifford is here. Jonathan is not with us today. He's out of town. And, of course, the county manager have some information to present on this item.
Were you prepared for it?
Not really.
I am.
I think Mr. Downs and Ms. Dubois are
I got it.
prepared. Okay.
Mr. Marshall is out of town. Basically, for the George Liles Boulevard extension, there is a section of the property for the middle school that requires a permanent easement to be sold to NCDOT. We will also have a construction easement, which we will not turn over that piece of property. But the price for that section of property that they need for George Liles Boulevard extension, they have offered the county $18,825. Because this was used in our financing, the property is in Cabarrus County's name and not the school district's name. So we are submitting this to release that piece of property to NCDOT for a permanent easement. We have talked to Chris downstairs in revaluation, and it is an equitable price that is being offered to us for that section of property. But that's the basics for selling this section of property.
Either our attorney or our county manager would like to address the issue.
Because that property is subject to a COPS financing, there is a deed of trust in favor of the Cabarrus County Development Corporation and Regions Bank on that property. We're going to need to get the permission of Regions Bank to be able to.
Don't we have to have a release?
Pardon me?
Don't we have to get a release?
Well, we've done it a couple of different ways with Regions in the past on similar situations. It's really whatever they'll require, but we will have to get their permission in some written form.
So we would want approval subject to that written permission.
Where is I'm looking at page 62, and I do not have my bearings as to where, I'm trying to figure out where, is that where Winkler is? I'm assuming the big large property if you're looking at the 5 as being the center of the clock, at 1 o'clock is where Weddington Hills Elementary is. Is that about right?
I'll have a larger map there. I believe that's correct.
Okay. Then where is the part that we're giving an easement to? And the reason why I say that is I know the schools have asked time and time again with DOT to get to allow school buses to enter onto or have an entrance onto this new parkway.
Right.
And the DOT keeps saying no, and they won't talk to them about it. So if they're telling us no, they don't want to talk to us, quid pro quo pro on that one.
Yeah, Lynn, is Lynn still here?
No,
Lynn's not
he
here.
left.
I mean, you're exactly right. That's the realignment of that bypass coming through there. The only problem is they have the same authorities that you guys do, that they can come through. We were negotiating a price, and that's what they came up with, a fair price. We can still go back to DOT and say,
I'm not saying we
revisit this.
don't work with them, but at the same time, is that when we're having issues, they don't want to listen, and when they have issues, they want us to listen.
That's right. Yeah, we can go back and push it. We've got to talk with the bank anyway to get a release in some form or fashion.
Okay.
Hopefully we can have that conversation with DOT prior to the regular meeting as well.
I mean, I would, before you start talking to DOT, obviously you will, but I would first talk to the schools, because I know that they were trying to get an egress and
yeah, at least for emergency purposes, to be able to get out the backside, since there is only one way in and one way out.
Exactly. And, nicely, they just thumbed their nose at us and said, we're not going to talk to you about it. Yeah, well, that would, yeah. So that if we can go back and talk to them and say, listen, we're just for emergency, or whatever purposes we can get out of it to help the schools.
Right.
Because if that one lane is shut down, none of the kids are getting out.
We
This
will.
I-
Plus down near Stafford and Weddington Hills, you'd have to come back through there because you share the driveway with Weddington Hills, I believe.
That's what I'm saying. All you
Yeah.
got to do is if that one lane is shut down, you cannot get any kids out of, Winkler Middle School.
We will have that conversation with them before your regular meeting in 2 weeks.
And this item was submitted to us by Lynn Wiki to place on the agenda.
Right.
I believe
That's why I
also,
was
and not that this
calling
has.
for Lynn, because I knew it was
Not that-
given to us through him.
Not to play this card or anything, but I think also that along that back edge of that subdivision where that property line runs is also the original route of the Colonial Road that came through Cabarrus County. So it's of historical significance to allow that, continue to preserve that roadway through there, not shut it off, so.
Okay, any other questions or comments concerning the request for the right-of-way? Okay. Next item, 4.4, a bid award for the purchase of service trucks, and Kyle is back with us.
Good afternoon. Sealed bids were solicited for the fiscal year 2012-2013 service truck replacements and received on July 23rd, 2012. Staff has reviewed the bids and recommends the bid awarded as follows. For the 4 half-ton trucks, Ben Minette. For the 1 one-ton truck, Hilbish Ford. One of the 5 trucks that we are looking to purchase is the 1-ton model. As you can see from Hilbish, the county has the opportunity to buy a 2012 model. If we do that, the purchase order must be submitted by August 10th. This scenario saves money estimated at $2,600 and also allows the county to receive the truck in a couple of months versus waiting for a 2013 model, which best bet is delivery in January 2013, and that's being optimistic from what we were told. Due to time constraints, we're asking that the board suspend rules of procedures and motion to approve the bid award as recommended by staff and release the purchase order for the 2012 one-ton truck from Hilbish for $37,489.52, and an additional purchase order for the 4 half-ton trucks from Ben Minette for a total of $97,816.20.
Questions?
What model year trucks are you replacing?
They range, the list of them right here. It's a couple pages. Okay. Do you have one in specific, or you just want them all?
I just wonder what the year of them are.
Okay, we've got a 99, 2001, 2004, a 98, and another 99.
Okay.
What's the mileage, approximately?
For the 99, that's going to our fleet department, and this mileage is as of June, okay? The last time we had them in for service was 123,000 miles. The 2001, which is the 1-ton truck, was at 149. That's one of our most heavily used trucks. That's the one that tows everything, the generators all around. The emergency management, which was the 2004, was at 106,000 miles. The 1998...
Excuse me, you said 106 or 160?
106. That's emergency management, Bobby Smith's truck, emergency management directors. The 1998 Ford was only 75,000 miles. It's the one that's located at the parks. It's had extensive work on the radiator, heating, and cooling system, and because of the age, we can't find parts, which is why we recommend it for it to be replaced. The 99 is also with our General Services Department, and it has 137,000 miles on it.
Yeah, typically, in the past, our policy has been at 100,000, and we've just, now that they're making cars better, and plus expenses wise, we're trying to cut back as much as we can. We've bumped that to 125,000 now, unless there's been just a tremendous amount of maintenance where it's costing us more to maintain than it is to operate the car, to go ahead and purchase a new one. So that's why we're at this juncture with these requests.
The only one that would be different is that one that's at the parks. It's just had so much work to it, and we just can't get parts for it. We're basically duct taping parts of it together.
It's a 78, what?
It's a 1998 Ford, 75,000 miles.
98 Ford.
Yes.
And you can't get parts for it?
Coming up blank on about 3/4 of the parts we're trying to get
I
for
better
it.
get rid of the 78 when I got there.
It's also had, it was in an accident, I think, probably about 7 years ago. It was an extensive radiator rebuild and some other heating and cooling systems that continuously gives us fits.
The half-ton trucks, are those 2012 models or 2013 models?
13.
And how long, once you place the order on those, I understand you want us to do something today on the 1-ton truck.
Actually, the motion calls for voting on both of them and allowing me the release of the PO.
Yeah, but you said that your main comment was that the 1-ton truck, we would save money
Yes.
by going ahead and do it today. Are we saving money on the half-ton trucks, or just to get them in sooner? I mean, do they just take a while to?
Just to get them in
get
sooner.
'em?
We haven't done any, there won't be any cost savings. They're a 13 model.
How long do they take to get in? I mean,
It ranges. The half-ton trucks don't take too long, a couple months. The 1-ton's a little bit different, plus it needs to have a service bed installed in it. And that's the truck that's rolling around right now. Well, as of June, 149,000, but it's probably more up there now in the 150s.
okay, other questions, comments?
I would just think, I mean, like Mr. Down said, is that with vehicles lasting longer, if we could revisit, not we, but if y'all could revisit the policy of replacing the vehicles, because, you know, like Commissioner Burge has said, is that if you take care of them, they last a lot longer. And just to flip it out after 100,000 miles, well, I've got 3 vehicles, 3 out of 4 that are 125 plus.
Got 2.
So that I just think that if it's got radiator damage or something like that, I certainly understand that, Mr. Billafer, but mileage alone shouldn't be the deciding factor to change it out.
I think Webster's could probably take care of the radiator damage, but I got one I drive every day, 2004 van. It's got 119,000 on it. Runs as good today as it did the day I drove it off the lot new. You know, you change oil in them every 4,000 miles and do maintenance on them. They'll last for a couple 100,000 miles. There's people out there driving Chevrolet vans and Ford vans now with 300,000 miles on them, I know.
But I just think it's a matter of looking at the policy, and I know your staff's doing a good job in keeping up on the upkeep on them.
You said the half-ton trucks are 2013. Okay. Is there not an opportunity by the 2012s potentially they're trying to get rid of?
Not that we presented in the bid.
Okay.
You know, just one last thing is, I'm assuming and I know, well, we've already voted on the budget, and this was included, programmed in the budget, so this is not new money. This is money that was in the budget for this next year for replacement, right?
That's correct.
These are the exact
Yeah.
vehicles you voted on in the budget,
Okay.
and there was several vehicles that were over 100,000 miles that were left off that budget for the specific reason of increasing the mileage in the policy. But even in the policy, it gives the general services director and the fleet maintenance supervisor the ability to override what the policy says based on the condition of the vehicle.
Yeah, because to add to the discussion, I know I heard the other day where they basically are saying now 200 is the new 100. That most cars now will last the 200,000 of that.
And
So-
5,000 is the new oil change, and that's what we're doing. We're using
Oh,
a
yeah.
different oil already.
I've not, my fleet cars I've been driving for about the last 4 years, never get the oil change until the sensor light comes on saying it does it. And it does it based on.
that.
What basis it on the number of times you crank the car?
For the record, we don't wait for
Operate
the
speed of
sensor light,
car.
but 5,000 is what we
Is
use.
it, yeah.
Well, I do like the fact that $136,000 is going into our community if we vote for this.
Yep.
It's not
Okay, well,
leaving, it's
question-
not leaving our community.
That's right.
The question would be, do you want to suspend the rules and to proceed with all 5 vehicles?
I'd
Do you
motion to
want
suspend the rules and proceed as presented to us.
Well, first, we would need a motion to suspend the rules.
So I'd motion to suspend the rules.
Okay, do I have a second on the motion to
Second.
suspend the rules? Have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion on suspending the rules? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so 4-1 on suspending the rules. Okay, now we have before us the request to approve the purchase of 5 trucks. Is there a motion, one way or the other, on the vehicles?
I'd move to purchase the vehicles as presented. One half-ton truck from Hilbish and four from half-ton trucks from Ben Minot, and one from Hilbish, the one-ton truck from Hilbish, as presented.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there additional discussion concerning the vehicles? Okay, if not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion passes 3-2. Okay,
4-1.
no, it's 3-2.
Oh,
Yes, 3-2.
3-2.
Commissioner Burridge and Commissioner Neesmar voted against. Okay, next item we have is again with Mr. Billifer to discuss Human Services Center renovations construction bid award.
Sealed bids were solicited for the Human Services Center renovations and were to be received on August 1st, which they were. Staff reviewed the submittals along with the architect, and we've provided a recommendation to the board at this work session. In order to meet our project deadlines, we need to approve the bid award tonight so I can release a notice to proceed and start the demolition. We're looking to get the entities that are moving up there, both parts of DSS, transportation, and legal department in mid-January. Looking for a motion to suspend the rules of procedures and to approve the bid award to Ike's Construction at a value of $543,000, which includes alternates 1 and 2, and to authorize the county manager to execute the contract subject to revision by the county attorney. Alternates 1 and 2 are the actual secure parking lot that we had discussed for the CCTS or transportation vans, and alternate 1 is adding in a drop-in ceiling in the main lobby where the current Sheriff's Department cube is for the aesthetics and the acoustics of coming into that lobby.
Okay, as a reminder, we have additional information on page 122 and 124 in your agenda packet, which are the bid tabulations and the information from Ike's construction bid, along with who the subs are and describing the alternates and what the cost of the alternates are. So at this time, comments, questions concerning renovations of the Human Services Center.
How many people's moving up there?
Transportation, Randy, how many employees you have? 35 employees from transportation, 4 employees from legal, 5 employees from aging. And then it'll also allow many more than that, probably, to relocate that's inside the building already that's with DSS that have been in cramped quarters for several years.
I thought Parks was going up there too.
No, sir.
According to our last meeting, they were, wasn't they?
No, sir.
They're staying where they are. They have the building, Parks has the building up on Lake Concord.
I know it. I thought we was going to sell that building and move them up here.
We never said that we were going to move them here. We can move them somewhere else if we needed to. But
There's not space up there for them to move?
There's a lot of space up there, but we've got other groups that RCCC has voiced an interest to move in there as well, which would be additional rent for that space.
Other questions?
I assume that Ben Rose has been involved in this planning and agrees with.
Yes, all of the department heads involved were Ben Rose, Randy Bass, Kyle Billifer, Juanita Allen, and Mike Murphy.
Madam Chair, you have a motion? I move that we suspend the rules to be able to vote to award the contract tonight.
We need to have 2 motions. So you're making a motion to suspend the rules.
Mhm.
Okay. We have a motion to suspend the rules. Is there a second to suspend the rules?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor of suspending the rules, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Are you ready to make
I'm ready to
your
make a
other?
motion. I move that we approve the award the contract for, get back to the page here. Okay.
Page
I move
88.
that we make a motion to award the bid award to ICE Construction. Bidding is $543,000, including alternates 1 and 2, and authorize county manager to execute the contract, subject to revision by the county attorney.
Second.
Okay, there is a motion and there is a second. Is there additional discussion concerning the renovations? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 3-2. Okay, next we have Kelly Sifford from Planning and Development Services to talk about the home public hearing for end of year 2011-2012.
This is just a public hearing that's required by the grant, end-of-year report. We did complete one unit this year. We got a late start. HUD did not release the environmental until, I believe, early December, so we weren't able to get underway in our first unit until December. The amount you see, the $59,000, was not all spent on that one unit. There were some rollover costs from last year, and some cost with analysis of impediments that was required that we had to pay Concord a portion of. For the everybody had to pay a portion of it in the consortium. So there were some costs in there not associated with that unit. Are there any questions?
Okay, are there any questions, Commissioners? Okay, so we will be required to hold a public hearing just for you to present this information then?
That's correct.
But there won't be any other action on our part. It's just a matter of holding the public hearing.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay, if there's no questions, we will continue.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Human Services Transportation Division, additional positions for JARC grant and related budget amendment. Ms. Dubois.
Okay, I'm going to speak on this issue from a budgetary aspect, and Mr. Cood can speak to it from the grant. During the budget process, the JARC grant was, there was an expansion to that program that was requested, and the actual funding for it was not received until after the budget was adopted. So we did not place the two positions into the county budget process until we waited for verification that we would receive the grant. So there is a budget revision that has been attached to revise not only the JARC grant, but the 5310 and the 5311, as in all three grants had some modifications to them once they were actually adopted. And that is what's presented in front of you today, is for those two positions to be added. They are one full-time driver and one part-time driver at a grade 57. And like I said, Mr. Cood can explain more about the grant that was awarded.
Is that a federal grant or a state grant?
It's federal grant. It's federal grant. The state does put some money into the one vehicle that we have requested, though. We pay 10% on that vehicle, the county, of $58,600. We pay 10% of that.
Well, the sad part about it is the federal government's got to borrow 40 cents every one of them dollars they send out.
Okay, questions? This is, other than the 10% match, this is a pass-through?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So the 10% match is for a new vehicle. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and
Yes,
that's
sir.
not included in this. That will be, that will just, or it is included.
It is included
Okay.
in that, yes. Mm-hmm.
Both of these positions that we're talking about are tied to the grant. If the grant goes away early, or when it runs out, whether it's 2 years, the positions go away. Individuals who would be hired in these positions would understand that up front.
Right.
I guess, Steve or Randy, maybe you want to, what's the benefit? Why do we want to do this?
This gives us the opportunity, as we've held public hearings, and this is part of the jobs program that helps get people to and from work. And when we held our public hearing, we had some discussions on that very subject, that we were going to be looking to go after new resources to bring into the community to help us expand that opportunity to get people to and from employment areas, and that's one of the things the JART program is set up for.
Along with that, probably 60% of the folks that we take are with the Cabarrus Vocational Rehab. So we're taking them to and from their work, and these are all folks that participate in their jobs program and the Special Olympics and all that. We used to carry them a long time ago, and when they moved out of the county, then we had a chance to pick them back up under this grant.
And the truck that was referred to with the 10% match was adopted in the original budget at June 30th.
So we're purchasing a truck?
Yes, sir.
If we vote for this?
Yes, sir.
Why are we purchasing a truck when we got some empty trucks down there?
Well, actually, we don't have that luxury anymore. We have began to see tremendous increases in our Medicaid, and we've been able to, with the route match process, begin to utilize our resources more. So we're beginning to get very, very short on having spare vehicles as we go through the rotations for maintenance and so forth. So that's why during the process of this grant, we requested an additional vehicle to help with that for the new drivers to drive.
Now, when you're talking about additional need or demand, does that have anything to do with the consolidation of services or consolidation under human services? I mean, has that helped out in creating efficiencies, but also understanding there's more demand out there?
Yes, it really has helped us to identify, working very closely with DSS, as now we've identified what I used to classify as unmet needs, and those have become more apparent as we've begun to have more discussions among their department and our department and with the public. We have identified, particularly with the vocational workshop, that they have customers or clients out there that really need to get to that work, and this will give us a chance to help get those clients in there as well with this additional resource.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so are there any other questions concerning this item of the additional positions for the JART grant?
For a budget amendment, don't we have to have a public hearing or not for a modification of the budget? Do we have to put it on for a public hearing? No? Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have finance. Again, Ms. Dubois, ongoing projects, budget amendment, phase 1.
There's twofold to this agenda item. The first part of it is the reappropriation request. Typically, we bring reappropriations in front of the board in the month of September once we have gotten past the close of the books, but we have several projects this year that are tied to contracts, and by delaying another month will prohibit us from moving forward with several things, and I'll point those out to you. We are requesting a reappropriation of $1,241,045. $380,000 of that is some funds that were appropriated for the RCCC Building 3000 expansion of the cafeteria, and $387,000 was for reappropriations is for vehicles for the ambulance services that were ordered in March and have not yet been received. So we needed to reappropriate that. And the third one that I wanted to point out was for $69,831, and that is for the Parks and Rec matching grants. That money was appropriated during last fiscal year to work on a Harrisburg Park project to put a concession stand and an announcer's booth at the Harrisburg Park. That was not sufficient to fund the entire project. So in this year's appropriations of matching grants in your July agenda, you appropriated another approximately $24,000, and those two together are sufficient to match the contract that's also attached with this agenda item so that they can move forward with the construction of that facility. There are a couple of other equipment items that are on here for reappropriation to allow us to move forward with those projects, and in the month of September I will bring the remainder of the grants. Once we have closed the fiscal year end of the books, we will know what better funds are needed for the grants that did not complete in last year and any other straggler projects that are left behind. but this would be the first step that we're taking at reappropriation of $1,241,045 and approval of the contract that's also attached.
Questions, Commissioners? So these are projects that were in last year's budget, have not been completed, so we are carrying that over to this year's budget.
That is correct.
But the funds are already there.
Yes, sir.
What's the Kannapolis meeting room renovations?
Excuse me?
Kannapolis meeting room renovations.
Okay. The, I think it was the historic room at the Kannapolis Library has been vacated.
Oh, yeah, that's right, that's
And they're
right.
turning it into a meeting room.
Okay.
And the Cannon Foundation has about $50,000 tied to that, and that was the remainder of the county's portion for that project.
Why is it so tough to get vehicles delivered? I mean, we got 3 ambulances, we got the fuel truck delivery, I mean,
I'm not sure what, maybe Mr. Billifer might have some more information, but it seems that every time we go out to purchase vehicles, there's a delay to receive them. I know that they have to go,
they're not getting them from Ben Minot or Hillbush.
the ambulances are not coming from there. I'm not sure where Cabarrus County Schools has ordered the fuel truck from.
Yeah, I mean, because I thought that was at the beginning of towards the beginning of last school year.
That was awarded in July of 1st of last fiscal year.
It was, because remember, it was a trade-off between
Yeah.
the buses. There may have been, and I have no idea, there could have been some delay with the state on buses, but I don't know that for a fact. I'm just guessing there was something in there that
The 2
delayed
buses
it, but
with Cabarrus County Schools already had in their possession that they traded.
It wasn't the buses. I don't know why those were delayed. Other than a lot of things, you wait until, when you get a 1/12 of your money every month, you wait until the very end for a 1/12 of it to accumulate in order to have 12 twelfths to spend it. And I don't know if that's what that is or not, so.
Prioritization.
I don't know, I was just.
The ambulances,
I have no idea.
the POs were created very soon after you guys. It's just a
Yeah.
specialty vehicle that there's sometimes a whole lot more orders than they have vehicles in the building, that they can't get them built fast enough.
They're expected within the next 2 weeks, and the capital money we provide to the schools is at 100%, not at 1/12.
It's just a thought.
I know, and there's like, I don't know if this is the deal or not, but same thing with the ambulances. I know that there's not, you don't have an ambulance manufacturer sitting on every corner. And I know that I know one in particular in this state that they're actually have a dealer's license from Ford, and they actually get those vehicles delivered directly from the plant, so they got to come from the plant. They got to fit them, and I'm thinking, this is towards the end of the year, a lot of municipalities, a lot of jurisdictions are, if they get ambulances, and there's also the ARA money that came out last couple of years that may have caused a backlog in their production, so. That's just my observation.
Your guess is as good as
Yeah, so-
mine. Any other questions concerning the ongoing projects? Okay. Next item, get my computer to slow down, to catch up with me, I should say. Regional radio system. We've been talking about this for a while.
Yeah, this is the second grant. When we signed on to the regional system with Charlotte, there was approximately $1 million that was involved in that the city of Charlotte put towards that project, and that set the things in motion. Then they came back to us and the fire department offered to file for a federal assistance firefighters grant that are awarded throughout the country each year. In doing so, we would be required, we meaning Concord, Kannapolis, and the county would be required to provide the match for the grant, which would be used to go ahead and take that next step in enhancing our current system into the P25 system, which was a fully digital system. We knew that when we joined the regional system, and part of the reason why we did join the regional system was to allow our existing system to struggle on for a few more years, to get a few more years of life out of it. However, Charlotte had the opportunity to apply for the grant, and it is a total pass-through to the county, to go ahead and take the first step of making this transition into the P25. The P25 system at the time when we were talking about it was going to be at approximately somewhere between $7 to $9 million. This grant right here, including the matches, would be for approximately $3.4 million. So what that would mean, with the new system, it was going to provide 12 channels of digital communication. This grant here, it sounds like Officer Johnson can add to this, but it will go ahead and purchase half of that new system that we're going to have to go after or to transition into to meet the requirements of the digital stage or phase. So for the match, Cabarrus County's match is $271,431.09. An equivalent match or amount for Concord, and then Kannapolis would be providing $135,715.60. And those ratios or those percentages were set up in your intralocal agreement with Concord and Kannapolis. It was 40%, 40%, and 20% respectively. So what we're asking to do, this money is in a special revenue fund. We knew that this was coming about, so the money has been set aside. It will have no effect on this year's budget. All we are asking to do is to move to create a budget amendment that would move funds from one part of that fund into another part so that we can actually spend the money now and move forward with this project. The grant has been awarded to Charlotte Fire Department now, and they've already started the process. I don't know if you want to elaborate any more on that, but the meetings have been taking place, all the planning's in place, and now it's time to start purchasing some equipment, so they need us to go ahead and provide them the match so that they can go ahead and move forward.
Just briefly, it's supposed to be completed in mid-November. To finish the system, like Mr. Downs said, we're only going to need an additional $1.2 million at some point, and hopefully grants can come back and take care of that. So that's a significant decrease from the $8 million we started with.
And this will, since it's not a total transition, this will be 6 digital channels, and then it'll remain 6 analog, so that the volunteer departments and some of the municipalities, until they do their total conversion, will still be able to operate. Both will operate on the same system.
And to fiscally point out that the money for this project is being generated by the rent we're receiving off of the towers. It isn't a multi-year fund. It's not part of the 12-13 budget. And as we generate more money and move into the future part of those projects, that we will be funding that from those revenues, so it will not be coming from a taxpayer base. And that was our goal, was for that money to generate and cover the cost of our communication systems. So that's why it's in a special revenue fund, so that it's ongoing and it's kept segregated from the annual operating funds.
Any questions or comments?
That is a federal grant, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hearing no other comments, thank you very much. We'll move on to the next item. 410, update on the Mount Pleasant Correctional Center.
Not really an update, just to let you know that we have set up a parking lot discussion on August the 27th. August the 27th at 4 o'clock p.m. We've done quite a bit of research, both from an operational and a financial standpoint, that we want to bring to you as a board to discuss and consider, and then provide some direction to the staff if you would want us to pursue it any farther, or if you do not want to pursue it any farther. And again, this is the Mount Pleasant prison facility down in Mount Pleasant, just east of Mount Pleasant.
And that meeting on August 27th will be here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just to clarify. Okay, so at our August 20th meeting, we will recess that meeting for a week later, so we can come back and talk about the Mount Pleasant Correctional Center and the information that staff has generated. Okay, I want to just briefly go back to 3.3, the Old Bethel School upset bid process, and to let everybody know that we received another bid So the current bid is at 17,000 by C Voltaics. If I pronounced that correctly. Have the current bid at 17,000, so the 10 days starts from that bid. And I don't have the calculated amount for the next one. Do you know what that is?
No, but I'll send the notice out in the morning.
Okay, so, okay, we'll send a notice out tomorrow so that we know what the next amount would be necessary. So the current bid again is at 17,000 for with C Voltaics. Okay, the next thing that we have is the regular meeting agenda. And that starts on page 114 in your agenda. Again, we have a number of recognitions. As usual, a couple items under old business. You can see the consent agenda. To note, if you have any questions on those, we have a few items on there. Are there any items on the consent agenda that anyone would like pulled off and placed under new business?
Number 9.
Number 9?
Yes, please.
Number 9, F9 will now become G2, and that's the Human Services Transportation Division for the JARC grant that we just discussed.
There was some questions on number 10 as well. That's the right-of-way request. Would you like to pull that and discuss that?
So we'll move item number 10. That will become item G3, DOT request to purchase the right-of-way. Anything else that you would like to have moved off of consent? Okay, the other thing under new business, of course, is is that the public hearing? That's the public hearing, yeah.
Right.
Sorry, okay. Yes, sir. Speak now.
I'm good.
Okay.
Oh, it's under old business. Okay.
Okay. All right, so if there are no other changes, then at this time, I would accept a motion that we approve the regular meeting agenda, moving items F9 to G2 and F10 to G3.
So, second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We are now ready to adjourn this meeting. However, we will be going for a tour for all the commissioners that would like to go of the 7th floor of the Sheriff's Administration Building after the work session. Any other comments or questions from commissioners?
Would we need to adjourn after that, after the tour? In case, I mean, not that we're going to talk about anything, but.
We're just going to look.
Okay, we will wait in the.
The money done
Okay.
been spent.
Okay. We'll adjourn out. We will, don't run away when we get done with the tour. We need to
And,
make sure we get a motion
And this
to
is
adjourn.
till open session, so any public is free to accompany if they would like to go.
Okay? So, thank you very much, and let's all proceed to the Sheriff's Administration Building.
Cool.